So today we have a special guest speaker, and afterwards we're going to have a congregational meeting for the update of last Sunday. But also I would appreciate it if you looked at your bulletins for all the good stuff that we got going on. We got Monday night Bible studies, Tuesday night Bible studies, Wednesday night Delta program and service, Thursday women's Bible study, Sunday Bible studies. So look in your bulletin to where you would like to get plugged in, and we would love to see you. I'm going to let Bob come up and introduce our speaker because he knows her really well. Oh, sorry. Is there anybody else who had an announcement? I know Holly did. Sorry.
The youth are doing a fundraiser. We're just trying to raise some extra funds for furnishing the annex, maybe doing some mission trips or something like that down the road. But next month, February 19th, they're putting on a banquet where they're going to serve people a nice dinner. There's going to be a guest speaker, and then afterwards we're going to do a pie auction. We're going to have a fun one to smash in Brett's face too, so you're definitely going to want to get in on that one. But yeah, they're going to be running around after service and for the next few weeks with little envelopes selling tickets. So if you have any questions, you can ask Brett or I or some of the youth, and they can get you the info.
One more announcement. I wasn't gonna announce it, but then I thought, okay, I'll do it. I'm teaching line dancing here downstairs on. Anyway, so Friday night at 7:00 downstairs off of the kitchen, I am teaching line dancing, and so for the next 2 weekends or weeks on Friday, so come and join us. It's a blast. Oh, 7:00.
They have people afterward to help you untangle your legs. Oh, goodness. Oh, my. Wow. Ruth and I are very excited today to have a friend with us that has been working at this place for 33 years, serving the Lord at the Oasis in Austria. We sang that song, people from every tribe and tongue and nation. And that is so real at the place where Carol has been a missionary and where we have been missionaries a number of times now, and where Sue is going actually in March. She's been there, yeah. Okay, we have some guests here from the other side of the state. But anyway, it always awes me and overwhelms me to see people that come into that center from so many places and different countries and different languages, and that all love the Lord. What a family we are part of. Around the world, we just don't, in our little homes here in America, we don't really see that as much. But, wow, you really see it over at the Oasis where people are coming. So Carol Halm, our friend, is here for a few days, and she's, I just want to say that this afternoon, we want to invite any of you, if you'd like, to come to our home, and about 2:00, and we'll have some refreshments, and you can meet and talk with Carol further if you don't get a chance to this morning. So come up to Ruth or I, and we'll tell you how to get there if you need that. So Carol Halm, would you come and share with us the work God has led you into and what He's doing? Can you get your microphone on? Okay, is that?
I think it's on.
Okay,
Is it on?
good.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, thanks so much for this invitation. It's just really great to be here after having Bob and Ruth and Sue with us so many times and hearing about you all and, just the prayer support that I know that you've given us over the years and the financial support. we're just so very grateful. And without people like you, the Oasis really couldn't exist. So I hope to just share with you a little more today about the Oasis and what we do and how the Lord has worked there and is working there. So you see it right here, the Oasis, and we like to say that it's a place where everyone is welcome. And you see on this day we had a dinosaur helping us with our promotion. That dinosaur is actually an 11-year-old Ukrainian boy who had to leave the Ukraine with his twin sister and mother right around when the war in the Ukraine began. And so he was having a lot of fun helping us out that day. That was actually the day that we started up again our weekly kids program at the Oasis. Well, we really hope that everyone who comes to the Oasis, whether it's for the kids program or anything else we do, that they will feel welcome, but also that during their time with us, they'll experience something about the Lord, his love, and be brought one step closer to coming to know him wherever they are in that process. So the Lord has really given us a great location at the Oasis. We're just a 5-minute walk from the biggest refugee camp in Austria. It's where many of the refugees start their time within the country as a refugee. Often people are interested in the people groups that we're meeting. And so currently those groups are Syrians, Afghans, Iranians, then Ukrainians, as I've mentioned, we have Ukrainians. And then we've met quite a few North Africans in the last year from like Tunisia or Morocco, and also quite a few Sikhs from India. And actually this year, in the last 6 months or so, the camp has been really full. So full is about 1,200 refugees at this time. And so that's meant that the Oasis is full a lot too, that a lot of refugees are coming down. And after all the restrictions that COVID brought and not being able to do much for quite a while, it was almost like night and day to all of a sudden be able to do so much again. Okay, so here's just a little look inside the Oasis. We have this big track there with the words "God loves you" above it. Many of the refugees are from a Muslim background, so the God of Islam is not a God of love. So this is kind of news to a lot of them. And so we have different tracts and brochures and little books and a lot of different languages there. And the refugees can freely take those, or we offer those to them when they come down to the Oasis for different activities. You can kind of see in the top there different flags from different countries. And the refugees have made those themselves. So if a refugee comes in and they don't see their flag, and of course they would be upset about that, you know, hey, where's my flag? We'll give them art supplies so they can make one if they would like, and then we hang that one up too. This is our kind of schedule program of weekly events that we give out so the refugees know when they can come down to the Oasis. And we have that available in about 8 different languages now, so we pass those out when we see the refugees, whether it's within the Oasis or outside. Sometimes different people from the team I work with will go out on the streets and meet different refugees and give those out. Okay, so here's a look at some of the regular activities that we do. One of them is our clothing room. Clothing room is very popular, right? People like to get something for free, so many come down for the clothing room, but it's also true that it's a big need that the refugees have. because many of them come with not much more than the clothing that they're wearing. And so we're glad that we can meet that need in a small way, right? We can't really provide clothing for 1,200 people, but for a couple of hundred, maybe 300, we can do that. And Clothing Room is a time when we meet many refugees then for the first time. So it's a good opportunity for us to just make first contact, give out our schedule of programs, and for them to see that, hey, we're nice people, and maybe they would come back to something else that we're doing during the week. So here's our Bible evening that we have once a week, where a short message is given from the Bible. That's my teammate Ken. He likes to use Sketchboard. We try to have translation for that talk. There's a Farsi translator. They're standing off to the left. And that's a challenge for us a lot of times to get the different translators that we need. So just recently I heard that they'd started having an Arabic translator come in over Zoom. And that actually worked out quite well for them. So I think it's something that we'll be continuing to try. Just as a little side note, we also recently started a Bible study where the teacher is in Jordan, the country of Jordan, and he comes in over Zoom and leads this Arabic Bible study with whoever would like to come down from the camp that speaks Arabic to the Bible study, and that's also been going pretty well. Not a large group turns out, but 10 or 12, and so that's been really great too. So technology has really helped us in a lot of ways in recent years. So anyway, getting back to the Bible evening, after the talk that's given, there's refreshments and there's a time for those who came to ask questions. And many of those who come are from a Muslim background, and a lot of them really have probably never heard the truth before of what Christians believe. And so the Lord's really given us a great privilege to be the first ones sometimes to share about what Christians really do believe. And it's interesting that many of them say in their refugee journey, because a lot of them, they're on the road for weeks or months or even years trying to get into the West. We've heard many times it was always the Christians who helped us out along the way. The Muslims didn't help us out. And so, of course, that kind of love that they've already experienced from Christians opens some of their hearts, and they want to hear more when they come to Austria, and they really have the freedom to hear, because in their home countries, they don't have that freedom, if it's a Muslim country, to look into other religions and different things. So that's our Bible evening. Then we have our coffee house, which is also a very popular thing that a lot of people come to. And there's two of our youngest helpers there at the coffee bar that night. Little Danny is the son of a volunteer, Austrian volunteer, and then the woman behind the bar is from Afghanistan. She's 16 years old, and she came into Austria alone. And yeah, many have really befriended her, and she likes to help us out. So at Coffee House, of course, we have coffee and also tea. You see the urns there on either side. And we have games. So we have our big room set up with tables and different games that don't require a lot of language. So like Jenga or like chess. There's our friend the dinosaur again. In his game of chess, checkers, Uno, different things like that. So the refugees can, if they want, they can just come and hang out in a relaxed atmosphere, have coffee and tea and refreshments and play games. But then on that evening, we also offer videos. So we have 4 different video rooms, and so we have the possibility to show different films in 4 different languages simultaneously. And we post the different films that are going on in the front so that if someone comes in and sees that and are interested, they can go to one of the rooms and watch the films. So on this evening, you see we had 2 Farsi films going, and that's really not so unusual. Probably a lot of you have heard in Iran about the openness of many Iranians to Christianity, and that there's a rather large underground church that has grown up in Iran, probably larger than anybody really knows. So even over the whole time that I've been at the Oasis, I would say that the Iranians are one of the most open groups, or probably the most open people group that I've come across. So a lot of them are curious and want to hear more, and we regularly also meet Iranians from a Muslim background who became Christians within Iran and then left Iran, at least in part, many of them, because of their faith and because they wanted to be able to practice it in freedom. Or at times even they suspect that they were betrayed to the police, and so then they really feel they have to go. So moving on, there's our German class. There's Marlena, the teacher. She's a really dear Austrian woman who doesn't just teach German, but she really has a heart for the refugees, and she learns their names. She'll just do what she can for different ones as she's able. And on this day, I think they were celebrating a birthday. You can't read what's on the board there, but it says, in effect, best wishes on your birthday. And the top line is, how do you ask for a cup of coffee or tea? So, that's the German that we have twice a week. And it's also the first time many refugees come to the Oasis because German is the language of Austria, and if they want to stay in Austria, they need to learn German. It's really important. So then, of course, we have different activities for women and kids. This is the weekly kids club that I mentioned earlier. And it's really nice that the moms come down with the kids too, so they hear this simple message also. And it's as kids clubs you would expect. There's a story from the Bible, there's games and crafts, and it's just a really fun time for the kids that come. And the 2 that lead it there, Hannah, my German teammate, and Bettina, they do a great job. They really love the kids. And this is from our Women and Kids afternoon, which is just kind of like a cozy atmosphere afternoon where they can come in and do crafts. The women can sit and drink coffee and just visit with each other, and it's a good time for us to just get to know them and for them to just have a relaxed atmosphere to come to outside of the camp with each other too, and maybe even meet up at the Oasis with friends they have from outside the camp. Okay, then also, and very importantly, I think, weekly we have a time for our team just together. And it's a time of worship and prayer, and a time where we often study God's Word together. It's a time where we kind of step back from ministry and we can really be a support to one another and pray for one another. And I've really found this time to be so critical over the years. You know, when you're involved in ministry, you can be rushing here and there, and you're doing all kinds of great things with the people you're working with, but you really hardly have a chance to share deeply from your hearts about what's going on and how you're doing and such things. And so I've really just appreciated that the whole 33 years I've worked at the Oasis, this has been a part of the weekly schedule. And as I look back over the last year, I think it's been one of the hardest years really at the Oasis, because in March, everything suddenly kind of ended with the COVID restrictions. And in Austria, there were even more things and rules, I think, than here in the US. So, we went through times where we could only have like 5 refugees in the Oasis, when it was by how many you could have in so many square feet. And then later, people had to be vaccinated, or they had to have had a COVID test. We had to write down names of everybody who was there. And then from one day to the next, boom, everything was gone. And we could open the doors and have as many in as we wanted. And so what happened, though, is then everybody started to get sick, too, because everybody had been alone so long. And so over the next 6 months, everybody on the team pretty much had COVID, or other things as well. Then also this last year, just quite a few people on the team had loved ones back in their home country who either were quite ill or who died. So we had a lot of people just rushing out from the team. One person on the team was in a serious accident that he's still recovering from. And at the same time, the war in the Ukraine starting, and that big influx, the camp is pretty full. And it's been so much. And I admit, even after 33 years, I just get so overwhelmed sometimes with the number of needy people, and then the increased stories that you hear from all of them during times like this. But the Lord has taught me to take one day at a time and to keep my eyes focused on Him. I often think of a verse that's just, in 2 Chronicles, of all places. I think of this verse often, 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 12, where King Jehoshaphat in Judah, they find out that all these enemy forces are going to be coming to attack them soon. And they're just way outnumbered, totally overwhelmed. And Jehoshaphat prays to the Lord, "We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you." And I've thought of that so often and just said to the Lord, I don't know what to do, but my eyes are on you. And He's been so faithful. 33 years, He's been so faithful through all kinds of crises that have happened with the refugees in my personal life. He is a faithful God. Okay, well, besides these weekly activities that I've mentioned, there's a whole bunch of other things that we're doing too. We own the Oasis building, so you can imagine that means maintenance, that means cleaning, that means paying bills. So there's that whole area of things we're involved in too. And we're also trying to get to know different refugees one-on-one as we can, meeting with those who have maybe shown some interest or have some questions and they just want to meet with one person, or at times we have little Bible studies with a few. I've had a Bible study with a few women who are believers last couple of years, which has really been super and a great joy to be able to pour into their lives. And it's been a challenge for me because of the different languages of the women's in the group, but it's been just a really super time of learning for me. And I've found with the refugees, one thing that they really enjoy if we get together with them is being out in nature. So here I am with Lida. She became a believer about 2 years ago. We're out in the vineyards here on a warm fall day. And she called me up and just said, hey, let's go for a walk in the vineyards. And I did it. It's times like this, you know, where you really almost connect more with people when you're just out doing something away. And nature anyway just inspires people, right? And so that was a great time with Lita, who took 15 years to really come to faith. She came as a teenager. She was very open from the time that she came to Austria, but it took her a full 15 years before she fully embraced the Lord. And different people on the team just kept in contact with her. And I often think of this teammate, Julie, I used to have, and something she always said was, we love them to the cross. So we just continue loving them, sharing with them as the Lord gives us opportunity. And he does the work in his time, right? So we never give up on anyone. Then something else that the refugees really enjoy doing, especially after they get asylum, is cooking and having us over into their homes. Most of the cultures we're dealing with are much more into hospitality than I would say the Western world is. And when you go to one of their homes, you're expected to stay there a good long time. So you don't go there thinking, you know, I'm going to have coffee and be gone in a half hour. They'll be insulted by that. You need to go thinking you're going to be there at least a half a day, if not longer. So this is Ferdows, and she cooked that lovely meal. And Ferdows has been in Austria about 4 years now. She became a believer within Iran through a dream. So she had a dream one night where she saw a figure in a bright white light. And she said to this figure in the dream, she said, "Who are you?" And the figure, the bright light, replied, "I am Jesus." And she said back, "Well, but I don't know you, Jesus." And Jesus said back to her, "You will know me, and your sister will be healed." At this time, Ferdows' sister had been diagnosed with a really serious form of cancer, and the outlook did not look good for her at all. And the next time, though, after Ferdows had this dream that she went back to the doctor, the cancer was totally gone. And there was no explanation that anybody could give other than it was a miracle. And so then Ferdows and several members of her family decided, well, they really wanted to find out who Jesus was, and they wanted to find out what Christians believed. So Ferdows had some Armenian friends, and Armenians are a minority group within Iran. Armenians are from a Christian background, and many of them are true believers. So Ferdows and several other family members started having Bible study with these Armenian friends. And many of them became believers then. And they continued to meet regularly. Unfortunately, they were betrayed by one of them to the police, one of the family members, and their names all got on a list. And one day, the police came to the house of one of her sons, and her sister-in-law was arrested by the police. She was at home. And as they were taking her out of her home, she yelled to all of the neighbors, "Let my family know, let my family know." So, her husband, Ferdows' son, found out, and he called Ferdows and said, "Meet me at this place in an hour." So Fairduce left her house that day not knowing she would never return, because when she went to that place, her son said, we're on a police list, we have to get out now. So they escaped out through Iran into Turkey. I don't know all the details of how they did that, but Fairduce talks about the last leg of it. I think they had smugglers that they paid helping them. They were told, get down on your bellies, you got to crawl over. Because if the Turkish police caught them coming over, they would force them back into Iran. It's kind of a strange thing. It's that way in Austrian places too. If you can get in without anybody noticing, then you're kind of in, and they listen to your story. If they catch you at the border, they throw you back in. So anyway, you probably can't tell from this picture, she's 77. Wow. So when she came over, she was like 74. So here she is, she said she could hear dogs in the distance, police dogs, but they made it in. And then Fairduce and an adult grandson eventually made it to Austria. That is a whole other story. I don't have time to tell you right now. But Fairduce got permission to stay in Austria then. But it's such a different life for her. She had been the head nurse at a hospital in Iran for years before her retirement. And she had lots of money. She had a big house. She had traveled the world. She'd been a tourist here in the U.S. She'd been a tourist all over Europe. And now she finds herself in Austria. Praise God, she got asylum. But she's living, just making ends meet on a stipend that the government gives her in a small studio apartment with donated furniture. Isn't in her culture anymore. Has to learn German. It's very hard to learn languages as you get older. But she's such a sweet, positive woman. And she's told me many times, maybe people would look at me and say I've lost everything, but I've gained what's most important. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. So it's been such a joy for me to get to know her and support her as I can. And I guess, when I think about it, there's so many other stories I could tell you of what the Lord has done through lives at the Oasis over the years. Sometimes I think it's like at the end of the book of John, where John says there's many other things that Jesus did, and I guess all the books in the world couldn't hold all the stories. And I really think of that with regard to all that the Lord's done through the Oasis and through lives that have gone on to other places who were at the Oasis. And it's just really been such a privilege for me. And I've just been so grateful that I could be a part of what he's done and is doing at the Oasis for all of these 33 years. And I'm so glad that I'll be returning to continue on in March. So thanks so much for listening. And again, I appreciate so much your prayers and your financial support, and your support of Bob and Ruth and Sue also, who come to help us regularly, which we really, really appreciate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.